Welcome to another episode of Six Figure Secrets for Fractional Experts. My name is Bradley Jacobs. I'm your host, the founder and CEO of Mylance. Today, I'm joined by Jenni Gritters. Jenni is the author of The Sustainable Solopreneur and a business coach and strategist for solopreneurs seeking simplicity, stability, and power. Jenni, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bradley. I'm excited about this.
I want to start with your book. A lot of people want to write a book. Not everyone actually goes and does it, obviously. You have to have a real drive. It's like, okay, why am I writing this book? Like, why is it needed in the world? What were you seeing out there? We're like, okay, I really need to get this message out there and share this with the world.
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to write a book for a long time, and probably like most of you listening, I had not written it, right? I would put it on my vision board and then never actually do it. But what started to happen, I think a couple things. First, I had extra capacity open up in my life. I closed a writing agency that I had run, a content agency for a long time. And I always joke that I got the words back, right? Like I used to give those words to my clients. So part of it is personal, that I actually had space. And then the other part of it is that I think the level of discomfort and unsustainability that I started seeing in the people who were coming to ask for coaching started to get almost like worse and worse and worse. So a lot of these, the economy is tough. The way we're taught to work is broken. And so I wanted to create something in my own business ecosystem that was more accessible, I would say, where people could get some of the frameworks I teach and the ways of thinking that I put into the world in their hands. So, I mean, it's important to say I really had to have accountability to get this done. I had a book coach I was working with and had to really put time on my calendar. Like it was no small feat, but it's important. I wanted a little capsule, I think, of like this moment, this body of work, which I'd been teaching for, almost 8 years at this point. So it was also fully baked. So it was ready. It was ready to be in book form, which we can have great ideas, but making it into a book is a pretty big hurdle, time-wise and otherwise.
I'm so glad the word sustainable is in there because to me, that's always the biggest challenge for anyone going out on their own is like, how do I make this work long term? So, what would be the top one or two or three things that you'd say from the book or otherwise that do make a sustainable business for, let's just say, a business owner, right? At the end of the day, every solopreneur is a business owner.
Absolutely. I mean, so I work like you do with fractionals, independent consultants. I think freelancers end up in that bucket too. Boutique agency owners, like anybody who's sort of like running a business with a very small team or just themselves. What happens is that we wear every hat. And, sustainability is defined as the ability to last. And I would say for those first 2 or 3 years of business, you are really in survival mode. You're just like trying to find the clients. You're overjoyed when someone says yes to you, right? Like it's really, those first few years are really about vetting the idea. Like, is this business going to stand? But people always come to me at year 3-ish. I always say it's like this classic wobble moment where they're like, wait, I can't keep doing this. And by this, I mean being reactive. I mean, not having a plan, like not having an actual revenue strategy. Referrals stop working quite as well at year 3. So it might be your network is tapped. So when I talk about sustainability, there are these key principles. One is intention. And when you think about the root word of intention, it's intention. It's like pulling back the bow to shoot the arrow. Most of us are just kind of like flailing for those first few years. And so intention is really important, being on purpose, right? Like, what is your business here to do? What do you offer? Who do you serve? What is your price point? What are your financial goals? Like, it sounds dumb, but I think so many of us don't actually lock into those details. We say you like can't get to a destination if you have no destination. Our brains need something to move towards. So that feels essential. It's like the infrastructure part. And then frankly, the other part, which might almost seem counterintuitive, is flexibility. So as the market shifts, can you shift? Can you be creative? Can you stay aware of your own life capacity as it shifts too? The combination of those two, it's like strong backbone, flexible joints, is usually, to me at least, what allows a business to evolve long term, right? And to be sustainable, to stick around, to allow you to keep doing it long term.
Yeah, I think that's the key for me and so many of these people that are total experts in what they do, right? They're amazing. And yeah, they've never properly run a business. And so they're like, oh, I'm just going to go, be a fractional CMO or whatever. And then they realize, oh, shoot, like I have to run a whole business here. This is not just a little side project. This is a whole thing.
You wear all the hats, right? And I think that's actually what often makes this unsustainable is if you're trying to wear all the hats at the same time. So it's like, I can't be the marketer and the strategist and the doer and the CFO all at the same time. Like that doesn't actually make sense, right? So the intention part is really about deciding what hat you're wearing, when, why, what's the structure there. And also, frankly, once you get to a certain level, do other people need to support you with that? Like for a lot of us, the answer is yes, in certain ways, right? Even if you're a solopreneur.
Right. To me, what I've heard over and over and over again, and the direction I've taken my business is supporting with business development with, okay, your network at some point runs dry. It's not enough. There's no levers to pull. There has to be sustainable, consistent business development efforts. And it can look many different ways, but it's got to be there. If I'm working, let's just say 40 hours a week as a solopreneur, what percent of my time would you recommend am I spending on new client acquisition or marketing activities? Yeah, biz dev.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I don't want you working 40 hours a week on client deliverables. This is my number one. So 25 to 30 hours max contracted hours with a client because of this, right? Because I think at least 25% of your time, if not more, it depends on the season of business you're in, needs to be spent tending to the business. And that's how I got into this is I was running a freelance writing business and realized I and everyone around me had no idea that this was part of it. We were just doing our calculations based on 40 hours a week. We're just like taking everything from the full-time job and showing up as if that's the rule book. It's not the rule book, you know? So 20 to 25 hours of client work is juicy. And then I want you spending like 10 to 12 hours on business development, which means financial tending, networking, marketing, content creation, right? All that stuff. And then we get to add to the top of that the belief stuff, which we could talk about, but like working with yourself on your beliefs about what's possible is a huge part of this equation when I coach that like it's foundational and yet we don't really leave time or space for it. So that could be in coaching, in therapy, wherever it is, but that to me falls actually in the business development bucket as well. So I guess I'm saying 25 to 30%, but it depends. Again, you might be in a season where you need a lot more clients. So you would do more than that in that season, or maybe a little less if you're in a maintenance mode season.
Yeah. And when you say a little less, let's say I'm in maintenance mode. I have my roster is full with my 25 hours a week. Let's say I have client work. Then, because I really want to hammer this home, right? Because this is the biggest thing that I see, the biggest mistake I see made all the time. So like my plate is full.
Yeah. And you're not doing any marketing, right? I mean, I see this all the time, right? I call this the panic hustle, Bradley. So it's like, you're like, I'm good. My roster is full. And then all of a sudden a couple clients fall off and you're panicked and you almost have to start from scratch. So think of it as like a little river that's running through your business that is moving at all times. That's your marketing, right? So when we say marketing, a lot of my people, I don't know if yours do, have a big resistance to marketing. They don't want to do it. Relationship building is the term I prefer. You need to be talking to people about what you do. And that can happen in a lot of different ways, but like it's essential. I mean, I've been a 6-figure freelancer solopreneur since my first year. It was always because of this. It was because of the coffee chats. It was because when something dried up, I had 6 people to email to say, hey, I have availability now, right? So call it putting people on the bench, whatever you want. You got to do it. You and I both know. Otherwise, you get there and it's scary. Feels like the floor is falling out from beneath you.
Yeah. And as you said, then you got to start from scratch. And this is not something you just like turn on the water hose and water starts coming out immediately, right?
No. I ran a workshop the other day that had 200 people signed up, 100 people attended live, 40 people just joined one of my programs. And someone said to me, like, how is that possible? And I'm like, that's 7 years of marketing. Right? That's not like I didn't just decide to do that. That is relationships built with people and trust built with people over a long period of time. So that's why you're exactly right. It's not like you can just press go.
Right.
It's an ongoing practice. Yeah.
Reminds me of the question I'll get of like, how did you build up your LinkedIn following? And it's like, well, I posted every day for 6 years.
Well, and there's that quote, everybody wants the result. No one wants to take the actions it took to get there. Like it's actually, when I talk about sustainability, I think it's incredibly unsexy. It's why this doesn't get talked about a lot, because it really is just, why is your Substack so big? Because I posted an essay every Monday for 3 years. I mean, it's just, I showed up. And when we talk, I mean, steady, repeated actions, that's the game we're playing here. It's actually safer. It's much safer. So for a lot of my people, it's understanding ritual. Like every week, what are my rituals or routines or whatever actions I'm taking to tend to the system, knowing I'm not going to get immediate results. And I know that's tricky. Transactional relationship building doesn't pay dividends. Deep relationship building does, right?
So to that end, if I'm spending 8 to 12 hours a week on business development, if you were to say there's no one size fits all, but if you were going to say the most important activities for in that 8 to 12 hours for a solopreneur, what would you say?
Okay, so it depends on your business. Like you just said, some people are going to be content creation gurus. Some people are going to hate that. I do want you to have at least one in-person conversation. Virtual is fine, but I want you to be talking to a human. So that could be a coffee chat, that could be a potential client. Sometimes it's just, I will go on LinkedIn and look at like what people I know are doing and send them a little note and say like, that looks dope, right? But I want you actually like speaking to someone. So that is number one, like legit connection. Could be a networking event in your town. Number two, I want you to be following up with leads that you may have talked to a few months ago. So that's something that I think is really important. Like when people need new clients, the most likely to become a client is a warm lead person that you have spoken to in the past. So there's a follow-up element to it. And then in some way, I do like you to be sharing. So even if you hate social media, an email newsletter is great. Like some kind of content, especially if you're in a role like you or I, that needs to be teaching content, right? We're talking about with a brand, there are these three core concepts I use: authority, authenticity, and aspiration. So I want you to have content every week that is hitting those three buckets. Authority, meaning, can you be trusted to give them the results that they want? Authenticity, meaning, are you honest, right? Like, is this real? And then aspiration is, are you building something for you or your clients that your potential clients want? And that one's very important because that one's really emotional. So something each week that's like hitting on that. And then I would say I want you to do something reflective every week. So whether that's, I'm in the midst of like a belief repatterning thing for myself about money, you'll notice you start to feel tension about something in your business. Maybe it's a sign you need an upgrade. So coaching, therapy, journaling, whatever that looks like, that's like a nervous system tending thing that will pay dividends long-term for expansion. So some type of content, some type of in-person thing, follow up on leads, and tend to your own psyche. We'll call it. That would be my like ideal instruction manual for you. And then, I do like people to be sort of like absorbing content in some way, but usually it's like go take a walk and listen to a podcast, right? And be picky about what information you're taking in because there's quite a bit out there.
Cool. So you've mentioned a few times this belief system, and then you just shared an example from yours. And I want to bridge this for people that are really well versed in what does it mean to soothe my nervous system and how do the internal belief structures like, and the people that are like, you're full of shit, right? Like the people that like are so not bought into this.
Totally. Can I give you a perfect example of this from this week?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Stories are the best for this. So I feel like I had someone say to me the other day, like, how do you sell mindset work? I was like, the people who come to me are like ready because they're like, they've hit a wall. So here's the wall I hit this week. I'm offering a program, has 45 people signed up right now. It's called Create. It's an 8-week business building, rebuilding program. And I noticed this week that I have weird energy about it. Like I showed up and was like, I need to market this. I don't want to market this. Why don't I want to market this? And so I sat with like, because there's something that's happening for me personally, or is there like actually a structural issue that means I don't want to invite more people in? And what it turned out was happening is that I was feeling this like chest clenchy, which I would call a nervous system response. My body does not feel safe in some way. I feel tense. I feel anxious. It was because the structures in place for that program are great for 30 people and not great for 50 people. And so if 50 people sign up, I have to do more work. So I don't want them to sign up. So I'm showing up in my marketing in a half-assed way. And guess what's happening? No one's registering. So what do we do about that? It's like part practical and part nervous system. So I had to sit with what kind of support structures would be necessary to hold 50 to 70 people in this container. So earlier this week, I brought on another supporting coach. I changed my schedule. I let my assistant know she's going to need to be more heavily involved, right? I set it up so it won't cost me more well-being. And in doing that, I don't feel anxious about it anymore. I'm promoting it from a more stable place. My nervous system has calmed down because it feels safe, because it feels held by the structure, right? So I know it sounds woo-woo, but it's your body will have some kind of response and it will tell you like this expansion isn't safe. I see this happen all the time with money too. I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's like people will have a high earning month and it's almost like they get rid of that money as fast as they possibly can subconsciously. And it's because they feel uncomfortable with, they don't have structures in place to understand what to do with that money. They may have belief systems about what money means, like being more wealthy means whatever. It makes me unrelatable. It makes me unlovable. It means whatever. And so they get rid of it, or they cause some kind of like catastrophic personal event that like requires that money to be spent. That's what I mean by belief systems. So it's a little bit of like, it's like how to stop self-sabotaging yourself, because we have upper limits. I watch it happen with people. Like the most I can make and be well is 20K a month. Okay. Is that true? Maybe. What are you going to have to change for that to be safe? So does that answer that question? It's like it's both psychological and practical in my world. Strategy and psychology are linked.
So for those listening, maybe the indication might be, I might have evidence in my business, let's say, that I have, a good month and then a bad month, or growth has stopped in some way, or there could be an indicator like that that might and probably is repeating in some way, shape, or form, right? It probably keeps happening.
Yeah, they're like flares. Mm-hmm.
Right. And or there's this physical in my body response where, as you said, my chest tightens up or like my throat gets like closed up.
Or people will just avoid the thing. That's a really common one. They'll just avoid it. They're like, I'm just not doing that task at all. And so my question is always, I mean, why? Right? If you're avoiding it, it's because there's some kind of discomfort in it. Yeah.
Hopefully people listening now can like understand what we're talking about. And then the question would be, all right, so you found the secondary layer of what was really going on. It's not that you didn't want to run the program. It's not that the program's not good. It's not all these things. It's the current structure that you had wasn't sustainable for the numbers you were getting. So you had to expand the structure. But you only could come to the solution once you figured out what was really going on, what the story really was that you had going on.
It's like the root cause, right? Yeah.
Right. So how do you invite people, and like maybe the answer is go work with a coach or therapist, but like how do you really invite people to get to the truth?
I mean, I think part of the answer is yes, consult a coach sometimes. So I actually sent a message to my coach about this. And I said, I think maybe the price point is wrong, or like, why aren't people signing up? And she was like, can we slow it down? What? She's like, I'm looking at the price point. The price point's not wrong. Like, I think this is about you hitting a cap of what you're comfortable with. So I do think it's really helpful to have people call us out on our shit. It's like you need somebody to reflect that back to you. That can be a peer, that can be a coach, that can be a mentor. There's a lot of ways to get that. I think the other thing is you can do this with yourself to some degree as well, which is to ask the question, to ask why a bunch of times, right? So usually the first why is something obvious, right? Like this program people aren't buying it because it's too expensive, whatever. And my audience doesn't like to pay. I mean, that's like that's not necessarily true, right? But it's one answer. But what else could be the reason? But what else could be the reason? But what else could be the reason? When you get down to the fifth one, you usually get to the layer. So I call it the 5 whys with my clients, but it's really, like I said, slowing yourself down enough to ask what is going on. And if you can slow yourself down enough to notice your body, you will notice if it's within you or if it's external. If it's an external thing like pricing, you won't feel nauseous or like you're clenching your teeth. Or if that's going on, that's a cue that it's your belief system that's getting in the way. When I say nervous system, I basically mean what feels safe to you, because we can change what feels safe to us. That's the biggest flex, I think, in our businesses, frankly, is to learn how to do that. It's like a little mystical power. But so body will tell you, journaling, asking why 5 times will also tell you.
From the journaling standpoint, I've found what I'm scared of. Like the business isn't growing past, 50 students, whatever, because I'm scared of ... And then just like rewrite everything that comes to mind. I'm scared I won't have free time. I'm scared the program will suck. I'm scared no one will, like, whatever. Everyone will hate it. Like, I don't know. You just write down everything and then you really feel like what's true here.
And I think that's a core question. What's true here, right? I always tell my clients there's facts and there's feelings. Like, I'm not making enough money could be a fact, but it's most likely actually a feeling for most people if we look at the numbers. And so, why is that feeling? Is that true? Is that helpful? Is that going to get me to action in a way that gets me more clients? No, it's just going to cause me to collapse, right? So, I think we can do this jujitsu on ourselves a little bit, but this is my favorite part of work with people because if we develop that as a foundational toolkit, all the strategic decisions get a lot easier.
Right. Yeah. I love that. It's everyone wants to go work on the strategy and actually get to the root of like where you feel safe and what your beliefs are and all that kind of stuff. Like anyone can come up with a strategy, right? The strategy is not rocket science.
It's the easy part. It's like the icing on the cake, right? Like I have a client who she knows what she needs to do, but she's not doing it. Why is she not doing it? Because she's so programmed for overwork and she gets certain things from overworking, but it means she's so trapped in the old model that literally we had to learn how to help her feel safe in her body so she could release old clients and then choose the new ones. And that happened in like 2 weeks during the 6-month period. It took about 4 months to feel safe, right? Like it's like, that's what I mean. Like this part, but this is also the part that sticks. You keep it forever, So to the point of sustainability, like I think we just can't talk about business sustainability without this part. There's lots of ways in which sustainability matters, but if you're fighting with yourself every day, it's exhausting. And it also means you're probably on a roller coaster. Like you said, it's working 1 month, it's not working the next month. Also exhausting.
I'm curious if you have any recommendations on rituals around, let's say, goals I want to achieve. Let's just say I want to be doing 40K months for my solopreneur business. And let's say I'm doing like 12K or 15K right now. And the 40K probably feels like big and terrifying. And like, how the hell do I do that? Are you someone who, writes the goal down? Like I am doing 40K a month every morning in your journal. Do you like,
yeah.
you like vision yourself as having, 4 clients at 10K a month? Like, what do you recommend?
A couple things. So first, I think there's a more, again, psychological and a more strategic. So I like to draw business models. So I will first, often my brain goes to the structural, which is, okay, what would need to happen for me to have a 40K month? How many clients are in this category? How many clients are in this program? What's the price for those programs, right? So that helps me because I'm grounding myself in that future reality. Like I'm literally doing the math problem. And then I also do the exercise of like, what does the 40K a month version of me do every day and every week? So I'm actually in the midst of this. I'm launching a new business this year. And so it is a business that's more like a 50 to 80K a month business versus I've been running one that's more like 20 to 30. And so I'm asking a lot of questions about like the version of me who runs the 50K a month business. What does she do? Well, her calendar clearly has more open space because she's more strategizing and delegating than doing. That version of me goes and gets massages and acupuncture more often because she needs to feel calm so she can make good decisions, right? That version of me has a bigger team. And so there's like those two pieces, right? It's like the who am I becoming down to like, what are you wearing? And then there's the version of what's the tactical like projection of how you would get there. I talk about the bridge a lot too, which is like you're here at 14K months. You want to go here 40K months. Okay, now we have the picture of the 40K month. Literally, we can't just go there right away. You will, again, nervous system will collapse. You won't be able to handle it. So what are the incremental milestones then between here and there? I call that titration. So you're like letting go of the old thing and growing a little bit of the new thing, but you're still holding both. And I mean, I just feel like I should say it's really messy and chaotic when you're doing that. Like, you've probably done this, right? Like growing a new thing while holding the old thing is hard. And it works long term, but it's not sexy. I'm not a big goal setter, to be honest, but I'm a big like, what vision are you walking towards type of person. Yeah.
And so if a client comes to you and they say, I want to grow my business, and you're like, okay, well, what does that really mean? You give them a destination or they come up with a destination. Let's say that's that 40K per month. And then you ask, how does that feel in your body? And they're like, I'm freaking out, right? Like my chest is on fire and like I get nervous and whatever. So it's clearly the vision of that is unsafe.
Right. It's too far out from where you are, right? It's like if I told you like now go climb Mount Everest, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, what shoes do I wear? How, how do I train? Right. Like, it's just that type of a business is very different. I find that, like, up until about 15K a month, you can do it mostly yourself. It's mostly you being the doer, maybe a little strategy. A 40K a month business is not that. And so it makes sense that that client's nervous system would be like, oh, because they haven't trained for that. So my mind, I would probably say, like, okay, what are the incremental skills that are happening between those two places? And how are we literally like lifting weights, going to the gym to prepare for that ultimate reality? And so that looks like different things for different people. Like, I'm thinking like, okay, the next scale would probably be around 20K. That's a big marker for a lot of people. And probably you're going to bring on like one assistant and learn how to delegate. And we're going to start there. If I gave you 40K instead of 14, you also wouldn't even know what to do with it, right? So like, are your systems sound? Like, that's a wise body that screams about that. At least I think so.
Yeah. How do you think about knowing when to keep pushing? Like, okay, let me give this strategy, let me give this niche, whatever it is, more time. And when it's time to say, you know what, like this ain't working, and it's time to pivot in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I call it scary good and scary bad. Usually, scary bad is it's not working and you're like clawing at a door. Scary good is it's a comfort zone edge and you need to stay with it. So, scary bad is it's misaligned. I hate it. I dread it. I don't want to do it. Scary good is I'm learning and this is new. And so I don't really know what to do, but it's not because I don't want to, it's just because it's new. So, I think there's a little bit of like self-awareness discernment muscle that you grow there around what the difference is between those two things. I'm also a big fan of like actual set experiments. So when you start something new, I'm doing this right now. I'm growing a new Instagram account. I'm giving it 3 months. And within those 3 months, I'm not allowed to judge whether or not it's working.
Mm.
Because otherwise I find people back out too soon or they get like lost in analysis paralysis. And it's like, no, we don't even have enough data, right? So 3 months of showing up. I mean, that'll change depending on what the business task is, but that feels like a permission slip to most people. And at 3 months, maybe you do decide it's not working. You'll know though. You'll know if it's not working. Like, we contain the information we need. I believe that like 99% of the time, right? I call it clawing at the closed door when there's like a window open next to it. You know when you're doing that. It feels bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I did not look at the analytics for this podcast for months, like so
Same.
many months.
Same.
Nobody was listening to it for many minutes, honestly. Like if you look at our chart,
You would have cut it off too soon, probably, if you looked at it, right? So, same thing when people ask me about Substack. They're like, how many subscribers? I don't even know how many subscribers I have. I just show up there and I write, and occasionally I check it. But I think like the point has to be the creation of the thing for those of us who are creators, not analytics, at least for a while. It just takes a while to grow this stuff. So, the experiment mindset gives you like, I will literally put on my calendar, now I get to worry about this thing. I'm not going to do it until March. And then I'll worry. And then I'll assess. And then I'll analyze.
well, I would bet actually putting it in your calendar in and of itself is the permission that allows you to not think about it, not worry about it. Like that small action, which someone might easily dismiss, like, oh, I don't need to do that. No, that's the exact thing that gives you the permission to not look.
And it's been taken care of, like, right? Like, it has a holding space. I don't have to hold it in my brain. I think when people ask me about why I take a lot of risks, I guess, right? Like, but it doesn't feel risky to me because I do it all with an experiment framework of like, I'm just trying stuff. We'll see what works. I'm like, when you have less of a grip on it, it's easier to let it go if it's not working. And it's more fun if it does work. It's like a pleasant surprise. So I know that's easier said than done, but holding it loosely is really speaking to the flexibility of sustainability. I mean, it's a big one to me of like that play and creativity is good for business.
Yeah, I had a business coaching session yesterday and I was feeling, maybe Tuesday, and I was feeling pretty unmotivated going into it. I just told him so. And he was like, why? And I was like, well, we're not growing as fast as I want. And we had this customer was unhappy with one thing. And there were just a few little things that came up. And he's like, Bradley, like, why do you do this business? Right. And I was like, okay, I talked about the mission and my why and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, well, what do you like? Let's say outcomes didn't matter. What do you enjoy? What business activities do you enjoy? And I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I love building. I love talking to customers. I love writing about my experience and sharing it. Like I pretty much love all the things I do, frankly. Like I don't, and the few things I don't love doing, I have an assistant, right? I have a VA, I have a chief of staff, I have help. And I would happily do the exact same activities, but from a frame of I enjoy doing them versus I need to do them to drive a certain business outcome. It's the same activities with a different lens. And I was like, oh my God, this is just like, this is it, right?
I mean, it's the like what's success question, right? I mean, I dance with this a lot. I work with high achieving people. Probably you and I are both high achieving as well. And so we usually come from this background where like metrics were really important success markers. And I don't know about you, but for me, I would go get a job if I wanted something easy. Like I actually like the building. I like there's these parts of this that I enjoy. I'm prioritizing for my joy. I'm prioritizing for creativity. The irony is that when I enjoy things, I sell them more magnetically and they work better, right? So there is this kind of like strategic element to that, but I think it's funny. I used to have on my spreadsheet, like my end of month business spreadsheet, I would just have my revenue numbers. Then I had to add all these columns after a therapy session that was like, what are the other success markers? Not just the revenue numbers, right? I've had amazing months where my revenue was the lowest. It's like, it does not necessarily correlate, I guess. So I think that question of what are you optimizing for is what I take from that story. And it's one I'm always asking myself, like, what's the point? Like, why are we doing this? Not for the metrics. I'll be miserable if that's the answer.
Right. And you're doing it because you genuinely, I imagine most people, especially solopreneurs, right? They go out there, or maybe every business owner, for the most part, you're like, I want to build this thing. I want to solve this problem. I care about this customer. Maybe it's a problem I faced myself. Maybe I just love being a marketer. So I'm going to go out and do a fractional CMO, whatever it is. And if I can really root into that every single week of I get to do this because I love it. And when that happens, as you said, I am more magnetic. I attract clients. I do my best work. I am show up motivated, like good things happen, and not focus on, okay, how did I do revenue wise? How did like, what happened here, and be like totally obsessive over.
I know. Like, that's math, and like math is good, but math is an inhuman metric. And like, I mean, what's something sustainable is something you enjoy, frankly, so it is, I call it chosen storms. I think about entrepreneurship is not easy, but that phrase helps me because it's like, would I choose this again? It's like you're having a hard week. Would you still choose this over going to get a 60-hour, 70-hour a week tech job? Yes, yeah, right? 100%. Yeah, because it's a storm we're choosing. That's why we all do this, I think, because we want to be at choice and choose, so that helps me at least to kind of reground because it's not easy every week. Certainly not. And there's so many people looking at us and watching us build businesses like this that are creator centric. That's not easy when you're having a rough week.
Yeah, it's not. Every single time someone gives me even the tiniest compliment on content or the podcast or the product, I'm like, thank you for saying that, truly, because sometimes it just feels like all I'm doing is getting constructive feedback, gap feedback, how it could be better, or no feedback, which is just like into an echo chamber. I'm like, shit, give compliments to your founders. Like we need it.
We need it. I know. It's like, especially when you're evolving or you're changing your mind in your work, I think being in public while you're doing that is something that's always been really tricky for me. And I have to kind of just give myself permission to be like, I'm just going to back off for a second. And it's always a wise choice, but it's tough to do. I mean, again, from like a metrics perspective, right? Like I'll watch my revenue drop, but then it always goes back up again after I've taken time to integrate. So, it's a growth edge.
So we get to wrap up in a few minutes, but would love an opportunity for you to plug your services, your book. Like, where can people find you? How can they work with you if they're inspired by this conversation?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So my book, The Sustainable Solopreneur, is available pretty much everywhere, bookshop.com or bookshop.org, Amazon, or if you want to buy it on my website, I will send you a direct copy with a little note. So I'll share those links with Bradley. And then I do coach one-on-one, although a little bit on a limited level. So that's a 6-month program. It's called The Spiral. I really do wealth reprogramming work with people so that all this belief stuff we're talking about, it's like, let's get you a new set of core beliefs and a nervous system that feels safe. So it's really for people who are wanting to scale, but are hitting, I say scale, I don't like the word scale, expand. And, because expanding could mean I just want more time, or yes, I want more revenue, or yes, I want more clients. But if you're in that place and you want to do that like deep, juicy work that really sticks, That's my favorite. So I'll have a few spots opening for that in spring. And then, like I said, I'm building a whole new business ecosystem. It is called the World Builders. So it is an ecosystem for creatives and entrepreneurs who build new ways of doing and being with their work. So I'm really interested in people who are developing new systems and new ways of operating businesses that we don't see very often. So there's a podcast for that. It's called the World Builders Podcast. And those programs will start to trickle out throughout the next year. So if you're following the podcast or find me on social with my name on Instagram or whatever, you'll get all that detailed information. So it's fun. I'm in a little building cave right now. So there's not as many public programs, but it's kind of nice. Building's the best part. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jenni, for sharing your wisdom with us and your time. Sounds like some amazing programs coming out soon. So we'll share the links, the book links, the program links, your social links, so people can find you. And with that, yeah, just thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you, Bradley. We'll talk soon.